Welcome to the Romantasy Library. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Romantasy Library. I'm your host, Kate Perkins, and today I am interviewing Hillary Raymer. She's the author of fantasy romance and epic romantasy. She's a wanderer, a storyteller, and the founder of BohoSoul Press, which I'm excited to talk to you about. I'm really interested in learning more about that. And she has written the Faeven Saga, Crown of Roses, Throne of Dreams, Realm of Nightmares, and Void of Endings. Also, she is starting a new series, the Starstorm series, which I have here. I ordered this online, guys, and you can find it there as well. It is so pretty. Hillary, this cover is so pretty.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this is
with
you're obsessed with it. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
And this is the Chaos of Constellations, and then she has another one in the series soon to be released, All the Sacrifice of Shadows. By the way, I wanted to show you too. You signed my book, which I'm excited about. I love signed books. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. How are you doing this morning?
Pretty well. Just, it's going to be like really gross and hot here today. So I'm going to try to stay inside.
Yeah, that sounds great. Whereabouts are you located?
Virginia.
Okay. Yeah. We're right in the middle of the country. We're in Kansas City and it is so rainy, but I think we just went through a heat stroke and it's going to be, hopefully, fingers crossed, cooler.
Cooler,
But,
yeah. You can send that rain our way because all my grass is dying.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's such, I don't know. I can imagine it gets really hot in Virginia.
It can be, yeah. Honestly, a lot of it just depends on where you're located. Like my parents are out west, closer to the mountains. And I think the last summer when I was with them, they had they maybe got to like 90 degrees like a couple times in July, and the rest was like in the 80s.
Oh my gosh. That sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already hit like 100 here. I'm like, no bueno. I don't like it. I'm not a fan. I have family in Roanoke. Is that
I
far?
love Roanoke. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually went to college at Radford, which is like 20 minutes away from there.
Okay, cool. Yeah. What did you study?
English.
Of course. So have you always wanted to be a writer?
Yes and no. I actually originally went to college to study music. I wanted to be a music teacher. And then I kind of like changed my mind a little bit, bounced around, and then I was like, oh, yeah, I like writing English. And so then I was like, I'll just teach English. And then I came home on break and I met a Marine and I just didn't go back to school. So
I saw that in your bio that you ran off with a Marine. I love that.
Yep. Never went back.
Never went back. That's great. And then after you kind of ran off with him, what did you do after college?
So I mean, we got married young. We got married at 21 and 22.
Yeah.
And I'm actually celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary this year in October.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
Thank you. But I mean, after that, it was just, the whole like home is where the Marine Corps sends you. And so we just, bounced around and we waited a couple years and then we had kids. We just kind of like bounced all over. And I started writing probably during his first deployment. He deployed 9 days after our first daughter was born. So that was fun.
That is so, one of my best girlfriends, she actually lives near Washington, D.C. I don't know if I should even say that. But anyway, her husband, they just had one of her first children or whatever. He had to leave too, like for deployment as well. And that is so hard. I can't imagine, Hillary.
It's really hard. So I started writing then. I was actually reading like a Nora Roberts novel and I was like, oh, I can totally do this. That's fine. And so I just started writing books. I was like reading a Nora Roberts novel and I was like, oh yeah, I can totally, I can write a book. Like this is fine. And so it actually took me 10-ish years. That's when I started writing Crown of Roses. And it was just kind of like off and on, back and forth, changing things, changing the story, working on the plot, editing it, so on and so forth. But yeah, in middle school, I wrote like all like the short stories, and some of them were probably like a little bit darker. It's fine.
I mean, we're in
Yeah,
middle
I
school
took
at
all
that
the creative
time.
writing classes, so I didn't always know I wanted to be a writer, but I always knew that I wanted to write, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I love
So
that distinction. I mean, I think being a writer, it insinuates that you're going to be publishing, right? Is that what you mean by that? Of like,
yeah, so like it
or
was I never really thought like, oh, I want to be an author.
okay,
Like originally, if I had been better at math and science, I really, really wanted to be an astronomer. Like that's what I want. That's what I wanted to do.
is that what inspired
Um,
this?
Partially, yes. um, so I loved writing. Short stories, poems. I mean, in high school, when we were studying Shakespeare, I was writing the sonnets in iambic pentameter for some of my friends because, it's
Why
hard to
not?
do. So I would do it for them, which is fine. We didn't get caught. um, but it kind of became one of those things where writing became more of an outlet while my husband was employed. It gave me something to do. And then as we moved around more and got older, visited like all these different places and different cultures. And I think like I gradually became like more and more inspired. And I was like, well, because the whole time I was a stay-at-home mom, right? Because originally I was working at a bank, and which is fine, but my paycheck would have gone to daycare once we had
I
kids. Like
know.
you know,
I know.
so it's like, do I stay home or do I go to work just to put them in like
Mm-hmm.
daycare?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I was lucky enough to stay home with our girls, and I just started writing, and then around that time when I wanted to take it a little bit more seriously is when like Amazon like came up and like people were starting to like publish on their own and stuff like that. And so
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, okay, well now there's like multiple outlets and multiple ways, and then it became more popular. So then I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this author thing, and then I can stay home. I'll still be home with my kids, but I'll be doing something for me, right? And I'll be someone besides, Nate's wife, someone beside,
Mm-hmm.
Lauren and Bree's moms,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah, having another identity. I think that is
yeah,
so important, especially as moms. I'm also a mom. It's so nice having different outlets, creative outlets, and different identities that I can get really excited about. So I can imagine that was important to you, especially, with your husband being a Marine. Like that I
yeah,
feel like would be a whole other culture that I'm not very familiar with, but I can imagine that's, yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. Is
It's a
he
lot.
still, can I ask, is he still a Marine or?
Oh, he retired.
Okay.
About It'll be 2 years in August. He'll have retired.
Okay.
So we're done with that.
Yeah. So then are you writing full time at this point then?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm off and on. I'm writing full time, but I've been homeschooling our youngest. She got sent home, in 2020 when everyone got sent home. And that was in kindergarten for her.
Hmm.
And we were in Japan. So I just homeschooled my kids. And then my oldest went back to high school. She just finished her freshman year this past year. Um, and my youngest wants to go back, but our middle school is like, eh.
Mm-hmm.
The high school is great. The elementary school is great, but the middle school is, eh.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll have like 1 year left of elementary before she goes to middle. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Right now, she wants to go. So I'm trying to get her ready. But I'm like, you're going to have to take tests.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Like, kids are mean in middle school.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're trying to navigate that decision, and that probably feels like a big one.
It's a
And
big decision, yeah.
yeah.
Because, like, working, like, if she goes to school, yes, I'll have more time to write. But at the same time, I also want to make sure I'm doing what's best for
For her.
her well being and her
Mm-hmm.
future as well, not just mine. So,
Mm-hmm.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
absolutely. Middle school is a crazy time. It's an interesting time. I'm sure there are some middle schools that are wonderful. My experience
Maybe
was
somewhere.
interesting to say the least. I remember on the last day of 8th grade, I can't believe I'm about to share this story. This kid that bullied me dumped an entire can of soda on my head. So, not to freak you out. Maybe I shouldn't have shared that.
No,
Damn
the
it.
stories I have
Damn
heard
it.
from our local middle school, like it
Oh,
just,
really?
yeah.
Though, it sounds like you guys are so supportive and loving that if she did go, and it didn't work out, like worst case scenario, couldn't she get back to doing homeschooling
Yeah,
with you?
I just pull her out. Yeah, and go
Yeah.
back to school. So
Yeah. And I think, is she close with her sister? Are they,
yeah, there's
or
5 years between them.
wow.
But they're fairly close.
Yeah. Yeah.
Close enough to where the youngest had like a breakdown the other day because she realized that my oldest only has like 3 years left until she leaves for college, and then she'll be by herself. And there was a lot of tears.
That's a transition. Our kids are in that spot too. My husband has 2 kids from a previous marriage, and our oldest will be he'll be a senior next year. And then our 13-year-old, she's going to be in 8th grade. And I think she's starting to realize what that's going to be like. And then our youngest is 3.5. So we've got quite the spread as well. But
Spread, yeah.
yeah. Okay. And so I know earlier you mentioned, obviously with your husband being in the Marines, you guys have been kind of all over the world. But before that, did you guys just travel, or have you always been traveling because of the Marines? I'm curious.
Funny story. So his dad was a Marine. My dad was a Marine. And then I married him while he was active duty. So, I mean, the longest I've lived anywhere was probably Virginia. Um, and that was like, and we call Virginia home because this is where we met. My dad was stationed here when I was in high school, and this is where I met my husband. He was stationed here, and then we got stationed back here again, um, probably in like 2012 ish. So my oldest daughter was born here. My youngest daughter was born here. There's like a gnat flying around. I apologize. Um, and so like, I don't know, we've lived in Virginia the longest. So this is where we came back to. Like there's good government jobs here for him. But yeah, we've always moved around. I've never been anywhere longer than a couple of years. I think the longest I've been in Virginia, the longest I was anywhere was my dad was stationed in New Orleans, and we were there for 6 years.
Wow. Yeah. So it sounds like it's a lifestyle that you are familiar with. And another reason maybe why you guys homeschool your kids, because you guys are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, so like how I just mentioned, like we were in New Orleans for 6 years, but I went to 4 different schools while we were there. Um, so,
Wow.
nothing is, stationary or permanent. And by the time, when I got closer for my husband to retire, I was just ready to put down roots and settle. And I'm like, I don't want to move anymore. I can't pack up another house. Like I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, for sure. And you guys were in Japan over COVID. Is that what you said earlier?
So we moved to Japan in like 2017.
Uh-huh.
And when the year we were supposed to come back to the States was 2020.
Oh.
So we moved in the height of COVID. Like,
Uh-huh. Gotcha.
we had our orders. We left Japan in August of 2020. It
Wow.
was ridiculous. Like because by that point I was like so homesick because we'd been in Japan for like 3 years. And I was just like, let me in. I want to go back to America. But yeah,
Wow.
so
Now you're
yeah,
back
it
and
was
you're
rough.
putting down your roots. Yeah, I can imagine that would have been really rough. And during that time, you had been writing. correct? Like the whole time. And the first series, which I haven't read that yet, and I want to hear more about it if you wouldn't mind sharing. So the Faeven, correct?
Yes, Faeven.
Yes. Could you share a little bit more about that series and what that was like writing it?
Yeah, so Faeven is a 4-book fantasy romance series. It's darker. It's a little bit grittier. There's trigger warnings in the front of every book. It's it's about a blood cursed princess who is forced to travel to the Fae realm in order to save her kingdom from the dark Fae, and it has like some like Tangled vibes, and it has like from like the Disney movie Tangled. And it has like monsters and just it's definitely heavier in the world building. It could probably be one of those things where like if you took out the romance like and the spice, like the story itself would still stand on its own, plot wise.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more like the opposite of all the Chaos of Constellations in that series, where those are a little bit more like romance focused. Like there's still plot, but like the romance is the main part. So, but yeah, I mean, there's 4 books. They follow. There's like multiple side characters. Book 1 is single POV from Maeve's point of view, and then book 2 is dual POV from the MMC's point of view.
Yeah.
Also, you see it both.
This has been on my TBR for a while. I feel like there's so many books I want to read, Hillary, and I started with all the Chaos of Constellations. You guys, if you're listening to the audio, you cannot see this beautiful cover, but if you're looking at YouTube, you can see it. It is absolutely stunning. Anyway, so that series is on my TBR. I love world building. I love it.
And I will say, all of my books are slightly connected in terms of like the worlds and stuff like that. So there will be characters from one book that might pop up in like a different series, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, very cool. The Faeven Saga, is that completed or will there be another?
So it's complete in the sense of like Maeve's story. Like like Maeve and Tiernan's story is done. But there are 2 specific side characters who will get their own books later. And then I have like I'm kind of working on it's something I've called it like Faven Ever After is what I call it. And I'm only sharing it on my Ream right now. And Ream is kind of like I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but it's kind of like a Patreon, but it was built by authors for authors. So it's over on there, and that's where I haven't posted anything yet, but I'm gonna start working on like just small little like short stories. I don't even know if they'll go to like novella size, honestly, just because of time. But where like people who like hardcore like fans, right, will go and they can subscribe and they have access to like all this other stuff, and then they're gonna have access to Faven Ever After, which will be like the stories following like some of their favorite side characters and stuff like that.
That is so cool. I think that'll be an awesome continuation for your your reader base.
And then I'm also doing something called like Faven After Dark, which is going to be like which is going to be like basically so I'm going to have my subscribers like they can like vote on like what scenes they want to see between like which characters and stuff like that.
That is so cool. Okay, I've got to read this series immediately because I want to be part of that group. That is so awesome. When did you say that might be up and running, possibly?
So I'm working on it little by little. It's going to be soon. I'm trying to have the first little like mini series up in like the end of June, early August, or sorry, the end of July, early August. Mostly because right now I'm under deadline for all the sacrifice of shadows, and I have to get that done. So
yeah.
I'm almost there. I'm a little over 75K. And then once I get that done, then I can like work on some fun stuff and like take a breather. So.
Yeah, that's exciting. I pre-ordered that book. I can't wait to get it. And for the next story there, I mean the couple. Hey yo, time for an ad. My friend Bree is the proud owner of Miles on Paper. It is an online bookstore where magic and adventure come to life through the pages of indie books. At Miles on Paper, they are passionate about connecting independent authors with readers, and they do this by curating unique blind date book bundles, custom book boxes, blind date puzzles, and a remarkable collection of traditionally published books. By the way, their blind date book bundles are so much fun. I had the honor of getting one myself. I highly recommend. You can find her website at www.milesonpaper.com. Check them out. And how do the people find, what is this called? Ream? I feel like an elder millennial here. I have no idea what that is. Yeah. I know you said it's by authors for authors.
Like REAM, like a ream. I don't know how else to like describe that.
Sorry, I get you.
But it's ream stories, and there's tons of authors that are on there right now, all different genres. It's not focused on one, but the reason I love it is because they don't. Their like main thing is not censoring romance authors specifically, in terms of like art we want to share, scenes we want to share, stuff like that. So that's nice.
So cool.
So people who subscribe to Ream, like they get depending on like which tier they choose, like they'll get like the full NSFW art prints that I'll send out and stuff like that. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Does that happen often? What did you say the words? Oh my gosh, censoring. Does that happen quite a bit?
Yeah, it can for sure on Patreon. I know some people have lost they've had to like battle like get their accounts back, but it's just easier to share like like on Instagram and stuff like that. Like I can't be like, look at this awesome art I have with all the bits hanging out, So but on Ream I don't have that problem. Like I can share it. So
very cool. Yeah. That's so exciting that you're doing that. Is it nice having, so what you said about you're finishing up this deadline for the second book in the Starstorm, right? Series?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Starstorm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is it nice having like a bit of a breather, to like have another creative outlet after writing? Is that?
It is. I mean, the whole reason I wrote all the Chaos of Constellations is because I was getting really burned out with Faeven. Like I had powered through Realm of Nightmares, and I got it done really quickly because my editor I had slated Realm of Nightmares to come out in like September of last year. I think it was September, October of last year, for its release, and it was September, and my editor only had a slot in August, which was cutting it way too close, or May. And I had just released Throne of Dreams in March. So it was like, getting all the words done to get it to her by May. That way I could at least have time to edit it and do all the formatting and all of that stuff. So I had gotten so overwhelmed and so burned out. I spent most of the summer binging the entire Big Bang Theory.
That's awesome.
I did not feel like I didn't want to write. I didn't want to think. I didn't want to go back to that world. It was too much. And so then that's when I kind of got the idea for Constellations. So that's what I did. Yeah. So I just wrote that instead for like fun. And it really took off. So
yeah, it did. I love it. It does give Bridgerton and Romantasy. It really sparkles. I feel like that, like your writing really sparkles and it feels very bright as I'm reading.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then it sounds like the Faeven Saga is it is darker, more focused on world building. There's, I still felt like though in all the Chaos of Constellations. I thought the world building was really amazing, but it sounds like that is more focused right on the romance aspect.
Yeah. I tried to put, so I didn't want to overwhelm with world building in Constellations, because it's like one of 8 books, so.
Did you say 8?
Yeah. So each Starstorm sibling is going to have a book.
Yes, I was hoping for that, because there are a couple of characters where I'm like, I want to know more about you.
Yes. Each Starstorm sibling is going to have their own book.
Perfect.
So like they're standalones in the sense where the FMC and the MMC will have a happily ever after, right? Mm-hmm. But the books will need to be read in order still, because there's like an overarching plot line that's going to tie all of them together by book 8. Mm-hmm. And they're gradually going to get like a little bit darker in over time, just because like things are happening and like the world is changing, right? So they're going to have to, like, the characters are going to have to keep up with that, but it's still going to be still going to have like that like light kind of Bridgerton feel, in the sense where like, like you still have to, there's marriages still have to happen, there's certain rules that still have to be followed, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so as the series continues, it's going to get a little bit darker.
Yes.
But there will still be the very, like, the focus on the romance, marriage, things of that nature.
Yeah. There will be like, so with book 2, with like Drake and Cresslin's book, there aren't as many like balls and things like that. They're traveling a lot more and going to more places and having to like do things. But that's because like Drake's not from Aramir, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's from Brackroth. So I have to like make the distinctions in terms of like their different kind of like cultures, for lack of a better word. But with books 3 through 8, it'll be back in Aramir, and it'll have like that more kind of like focus again, if that makes sense.
Totally. I'm so excited to learn more about Drake. I'm like, who are you, sir?
Yeah.
Which I'm sure we find out more about.
Yeah, you'll find out more.
I would hope so.
We'll learn what he is in by the end of the book.
Yeah.
All the Sacrifice of Shadows. So
nice.
Yeah.
You're being so cryptic about it, which is great.
You'll find out more about him, more about Cresslin. There's a lot more things that are kind of like uncovered, and like secrets that will be like shared and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't want to give don't give it away. Too much away.
Don't give it away. I love the surprise, and I love secrets. I get so curious sometimes. I'm like, I have to hold, my husband makes fun of me because he's like, you just want to know the answer. And it's true. I want to know. So I have to sometimes slow myself down and just take it page by page, because there's a part of me that wants to like skip forward and find out the answer, but I can't do it. I need to be along for the ride, for the journey.
I also, I'm also the kind of person where like, I don't mind spoilers. Like I want to know what I'm getting myself into.
Yeah. So. Yes. I mean, I think especially for me personally, if there are significant trigger warnings, I want to know what that is. I mean, I don't really get triggered too much, but I want to know what type of trigger warnings there are. If, I might not want to read it. But yeah. So, okay. How long does it typically take you to write a book? Because I know you said you started writing the Faeven Saga about 10 years ago. Is that correct? Is that what you said?
Just Crown of Roses. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that was just off and on between like babies and stuff like that, and deployments and moving. And,
I mean, life, right?
Yeah, life.
Yeah.
I like bounced back and forth between genres then too. I took a stab at like contemporary romance and stuff like that. But yeah, so usually to write a book, I like to give myself like at least 6 months, but if the words are really like flowing, I can probably get it done in like 3 or 4.
Oh my gosh.
it varies. It varies in the story and the characters, and how I'm feeling about the plot. Like all the Sacrifice of Shadows, I probably could have had it done by the end of June, like I wanted to, but that was more so just life getting in the way and things happening and stuff that was like outside of my control.
Sure. So. How do you balance that with life, things out of your control with writing?
I don't really.
Oh my gosh, I've talked to so many authors and they all say the same thing. I'm like, how do you guys do this? And then Miranda Lynn was like, there isn't an imbalance. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, like there's definitely an imbalance. I should, maybe like have like certain like working hours, but I feel like that's tricky with writing because sometimes like if I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write from, like 8 o'clock in the morning to like 11 o'clock or to noon or whatever. Like that's fine, but if the creativity isn't there and the words aren't flowing, then I'm just wasting time, nothing's getting done. So like I know there's like mood readers. I guess I'm like a mood writer. I don't know. It just sometimes there used to be like a time where like anything I wrote at nighttime, like after dinner, was total garbage, because I was tired and I was falling asleep. But with Shadows, for example, I've written most of that in the evening because I just haven't had time during the day, or things I've been doing like just other work and stuff like that has to get done first, like back office kind of stuff with publishing and things like that. So
yeah,
it just varies, but it's an imbalance for sure.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I think it sounds like you're a very creative soul and free spirit, and even in your bio you're like, I'm a wanderer, free spirit, and that's how you want to raise your girls, which is amazing. My soul definitely connects with your soul on that about being a free spirit. That's amazing. So do you tend to be, with that creative spirit, more of a plotter or a pantser, or I mean, what does that look like?
So for me, I like to have a general idea of like my character's goals, motivations, and conflicts. I like to know how I want at least either the first book or like what I want, like the very, very final scene of however many books that'll take to get there. What I want that scene to look like. But when I'm getting ready to plot a book, I don't plot the whole thing. I'll plot out, like if I have ideas for scenes that I know I want to write, I'll write those down, and then it'll be more of like, okay, well, how do I get them here? How do I get them from there to this point instead? But I write all of my books by hand first. So it's like not all at once. I'll do like 3 or 4 chapters or scenes at a time. But for me, it's more creative than like just staring at a blank screen. And then so that's kind of like almost like my first draft right there, right? So then when I go to like type it up, the words like flow a lot easier for me, and I'm not just like stuck like constantly backspacing or deleting or whatever.
Sure.
But and then also because I limit the amount that I handwrite at a time, it makes it easier in case like the characters like shift gears or like go a little bit off track, and then I can just pivot and do whatever to like keep them in line. Or
that's awesome. I heard on the other podcast that you're a handwriter. Yes. I think that's amazing. You're the first author I've spoken to so far who handwrites first. I know that you said too that you attempted, well, maybe attempted isn't the right word, but you tried to get into contemporary romance too.
How did?
Say that last part again. I'm sorry.
I published 2 contemporary romance books before I published my fantasy ones.
Oh, I didn't share that in the intro, Hillary. I'm so
don't. It's okay. I don't publicize them. It's fine.
Okay.
It was gonna be a series. It was gonna be like a 5-book series about like 5 sisters. But it was they're not based in like, so everyone's like, oh, write what you know. To an extent, except for when they're like making up worlds and making up magic and stuff. Because
I know, I'm like, that's my world. I want that to be my world, Hillary.
So with my contemporary novels, the two that I published, they were like, they weren't military in the sense that like the storylines were military, but like the guys were the male main characters were like former or like had been or had retired or whatever, because that's what I've known for so long. And with the second book that I published, I had to ask like my husband and my brothers like some really hard questions. And it was just very sad to write. And I had like a I had my friend's friend reach out to me, and I guess her husband was like killed in action in Afghanistan, and she told me that like I captured like the scene at Arlington beautifully, and I'm like, well, that's because I've been to one before. So it was just really horrible. And they're kind of like more like Nicholas Sparks, where it's like very sad, except they're like happy sad because they have happy endings, but they're just sad. So I don't write them.
Yeah. So and emotionally, it sounds like you have to go to that place too to be able to write it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and having loved ones in your life who have experienced that would have been hard.
It was difficult.
Yeah.
So I just was like,
we're going to shift gears. We're going to pivot. Yeah. Were there themes of PTSD in those books then?
Yeah. Lots of it.
Yeah. I think sometimes, well, I've been in the era of wanting to read fantasy and romantasy and to kind of get out of reality for a little bit. I was going to say sometimes I want to read books like Nicholas Sparks, but I don't really think so.
No, maybe not.
But to each their own. And I can imagine that was really emotional for you. And because you mentioned too, growing up, your dad was did you say he was also a Marine?
My dad was a Marine. Both my brothers were Marines.
Wow.
Husband's a Marine. So
yeah. So maybe it touched a little bit too
close
to home. Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, and now it is time for fun book announcements and alerts. I really want to celebrate and promote the Romantasy authors I get the opportunity to interview. I want to help spread the love for them and spread the word for their books. So I want to shout out to Samara Saywed for the release of her second book on Monday, woohoo, and her series, The Chronicles of Redalia. Samara's first book in the series is Jaded Wears the Crown, and the book she just released is Crimson Haunts the Soul. I cannot wait to read and review for you, Samara. Congratulations. I hope you're feeling all the love around the world, and I'm so excited for you. Congrats for your hard work. Also, I want to let fans of Nicole Platania know that if you pre-order The Breaker of Stars, she has a pre-order incentive for artwork, which is absolutely amazing. You can find that on her Instagram. I wanted to share that too. So thanks, everybody. I'm going to have brief announcements from now on. Now back to the interview. Have a good day. So then when you landed on fantasy, was it because you were not wanting to write those other types of books? Because, I mean, you could have written a different subject matter within contemporary.
So I wrote Crown of Roses first. And then I stopped writing fantasy because I had gotten so many rejections from agents and stuff that I just figured I wasn't good enough. And I know there are some authors out there that be like, oh, I got like, dozens of rejections too. Yeah, so did I. Like probably close to like 100. And it's fine. But I just was like, well, maybe I shouldn't write fantasy. Like maybe this just sucks. So I stopped writing fantasy for 3 years. And I was like, well, I'll just write contemporary because I know I can do it. It's fine. And then there was just like, I remember I was sitting at my mom's house, I think. I was sitting somewhere. And I had the file to Crown of Roses, which at the time was called Crown of Tears, on my phone. And I was like, well, let me just like look and see, maybe it's just not as bad as I think it is. And so I opened it and I started reading the file, and I had to like turn off my phone and walk away because I was so mad at myself for quitting. I was so angry. And so it was then I decided, that I was just going to do it on my own, and I wasn't going to wait for someone to tell me I was good enough. So, or at least good enough for them.
Yeah, I love that. Gosh, I can imagine. I mean, I don't know, being an author and putting yourself out there and then having those rejections and how difficult, because the series is beloved. I feel like you have a really strong reader base. And had you not put it out there, then you wouldn't have found your peeps, you know?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm so glad that you did. I love
Me
your
too.
writing, Hillary. I think
Thank
it's
you.
so good. And so it sounds like, and this makes sense with the rejections and then feeling like, oh gosh, maybe this
Mm-hmm.
isn't good enough. I'm going to pivot and try contemporary. But your heart, it sounds like, wasn't, really in it, really in the
Yeah, it
contemporary
wasn't
world.
really. So it was just
Yeah.
kind of like me doing what I could do, just to
Yeah,
just at least get something written, I guess. So
for sure. Is that how Boho Press was like
yeah,
born?
so BohoSoul Press is just my LLC.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, that's all it
That's
is.
awesome though.
It's just my LLC
Okay.
to like publish my books under, since I don't have like an actual like publisher or anything like that. So that's what I
Yeah.
use it for.
Yeah. I love the name Boho Soul Press. Can I ask, how did that come to you?
I just wanted to find something that described me on like
Mm-hmm.
more than one level.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I didn't want it to be like all about like books or,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, because yes, my books are my brand, but like I am also my brand.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, I just was like trying to like, it's one of those things where I was like putting words together the whole
Uh-huh. No,
time.
I love it. Boho Soul Press. I love that. And you really, I mean, you are the tool, like you are the brand. And so do you have, the books is a big piece of it, but do you have like merchandise that falls under Boho Soul Press or?
So yes and no.
Okay.
So I have merch. It's all on my website. I designed most of it myself. I have a couple like bookish shops that have licensing with me, and they design stuff for my series and stuff. It's not technically under BohoSoul Press. It's just on my Shopify website. So,
Cool. Yeah.
but
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you landed with fantasy and that you got back to that. And when you said that you put down your phone and you were with your mom, does she notice? Like, what was that interaction like?
No,
Okay.
I was by myself. I was just
Oh,
at her house, just in the living room.
okay.
Um, I think it was after I had released I think it was after I had released the second contemporary romance book.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought I would check,
Yeah.
just to see. She reads all of my books, and so she
Oh,
kept asking when I was going to publish that one. Um, and she's read it from like the beginning, when it was not what it is now, but
mhm.
kind of similar.
I love
So.
that your mom has your back. And so then when you decided to publish, what was that process like? I mean, is that a pretty pricey process? Like I don't know.
It can be,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it can be expensive. I did a lot of research, or as much as I could. Like I was attending, like, because it was still COVID-ish
Mm-hmm.
time. So I was attending like a lot of like online writers conferences and stuff like that. Just like, like, because I feel like we never stop learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to do like as much market research as I could, figure out, like the ins and outs of like doing it myself. Did I want to be in Kindle Unlimited? Did I want to go wide? Who do I find for cover designers? Who do I do? Do I want to do my own formatting? Do I want to hire out for whatever else? I have to find editors. What kind of editing am I paying for? All of it, or just whatever. So it can definitely add up. It can also be done, but it just don't be like me and just jump into it thinking that just it's good to have a plan. I did not have a plan. I was just like, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
So the only thing I planned for was creating an LLC to like make sure I had like that one base covered.
Which is good that you did that. Yeah. And it worked out for you, that you jumped in. And gosh, there's so many moving parts. It's so fascinating to me talking with indie authors of all of these different pieces that you have to consider, and you're the one in charge, which I can imagine has its benefits. And then also sometimes it's like, oh gosh, I wish somebody else could do this for me, maybe, but I don't know.
I had an issue with the original cover designer for Crown of Roses. And it just wasn't what I wanted and things like that. But long story short, I ended up designing the Faeven Saga covers myself, which is fine-ish. They're okay. They're not my favorite. But I was just doing what I could at the time because, well, for the most part, I didn't know any better. And covers can be very expensive. But the Faeven Saga is all going to have new covers in the fall. They're going to be redone. They're going to be a little bit more on brand for the genre. So they'll all get new ones. And then I made the mistake because I couldn't decide which cover I liked best for Crown of Roses. So I was like, oh, I'll just do one as the dust jacket and then I'll do the other one as the paperback. And then I failed to realize that I would have to do that for every single book in the series, which was exhausting. Because I was doing them myself. And like, that's like the one thing I told myself, like when I got ready for Constellations, I was like, I am not designing my own cover. I refuse. So I found an amazing cover designer who's really cool.
That's
and I love her. But it can be a lot. It can definitely get pricey. Don't be like me and make a budget.
So is that what you mean? Is that what you meant by a plan? Like you would have done it differently with a plan?
Like have like if you're good with like numbers and like spreadsheets are your jam, or someone who is, then, like get it all out there. That way how much you want to spend on art, how much you want to spend on marketing, how much you want to spend on whatever else. Because
you just went for it.
I just wing it.
I think I need to be a little bit more of like a type A-er. I mean, I'm not writing a book, so I don't know, but I would probably have done it a little bit your way. And then my husband, who's so type A, would be like, babe, what are you doing? Like, I don't fucking know. That's how my husband
is. He's like, do you have like he's like, how are your numbers for the month? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just plug everything into QuickBooks and it tells me my profit and loss.
Yeah, I love it. You're like, I'm a writer. And that's another thing too. Gosh, I mean, like, you can't be excellent at everything, I would think.
Yeah, no, I know my limits. I know what is outside of my wheelhouse. And budgeting and creating spreadsheets, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to use Excel. I don't know how to put in the formulas and stuff like that. Like,
it's not your thing.
Not my thing. I can use Canva. And I can make pretty graphics and stuff like that. But
so the outside will be more reflective of the inside.
Correct.
Yeah. And then people can find that on your website once they're released, or at any major book retailer.
I'm gonna have them on my website, and I will pull all the copies from like Amazon and everywhere else, and Ingram, and then re-upload them with the new covers.
Very cool. So, yeah. Switching gears a little bit, I wanted to ask, which character from any of your books do you feel like you connect with most? I know that's a big question, and I don't know.
No, it's a good question. So in terms of like connection, Maeve is probably my favorite character. She's from Faeven. She's the FMC of that whole series. And I connect with her just because she's who I would want to be. She's very resilient. She's tough. She's a badass. She takes no shit. Like, she's amazing, and I love her, and I wish I could be her, but I am a people pleaser, and I am a overachiever, and I just I'm not her. But if I could be like her, she is who I would want to be. So
it's interesting. I feel like some common themes of the authors that I'm meeting with tend to be overachievers, perfectionistic, like hard on themselves. I've spoken to a couple where it's like, I feel like there's an imposter syndrome happening where like other people are better. Like I can imagine. It's interesting. I feel like there's like a personality type of you guys.
The imposter syndrome hits all the time. Like, it's almost like when you least expect it. Like you can just be sitting there writing and you're like, oh, this is amazing. This is great. And then like, comparison is a thief of joy. And you'll see one of your friends do like this amazing thing. And you're just like, you want to cheer them on, but at the same time, your soul's like a little bit crushed. So
yeah, the comparison game is so hard.
Yeah. So I try not to, and I try to like, like lift them up and cheer them on, and then just keep my eyes on my own paper and just try to stay focused. But it's hard. It can be hard sometimes, when you're like, there's just like a lot of highs and lows, like roller coaster, just up and down, up and down. So.
Well, owning your own business, there will be ups and downs. It's a roller coaster ride, let alone I can imagine writing, and I hear you saying that you want to be celebrating and supporting your friends who are also authors. Wow, I really stumbled on the words there. And, your books are special because they're your books, right? And they have your voice. And truly, and I don't know why I keep thinking of the word sparkle. I really feel like this book sparkles and the way that it was written. And guys, I'm holding up the cover again because it's just so beautiful. So those on YouTube can see it. Obviously, those listening cannot, but I don't know. Is it helpful to think about it too from that perspective of like, okay, but this is what makes me, and like, or no?
Yes and no. I feel like maybe it can be like a double-edged sword.
Okay.
Like it works. Like it's good for like pep talks and like, motivating myself, right? Like it's like, okay, I know I'm good at that. I know I'm good at this. I know I can do this, and like, especially like if you, like, if you're like really big into like, manifestation and stuff like that, which I am, then you want to kind of like, use your mind to change, your life and to like, to bring, so the universe, like, gives to you what you put out. Right. But then at the same time, like sometimes those like bad, ugly little thoughts sneak in. And they're like,
you just did this. That was really cute. I liked it. Okay. Sorry, continue.
Those bad, self-doubt, right, will come in. And it's just, sometimes it can be like really hard to like kick it back out again.
Yeah. And earlier you were saying like when you first put out the fantasy book and the rejections, like how difficult that would be. And you're right. Like, I think all authors get that, but I can imagine with the comparison game too, you're like, oh, but gosh, this series, I don't know. I'm not making any sense right now, but.
No. Yeah. It's, so like, okay. So like a big thing, right, is, I love the Faeven Saga. But like Constellations is already doing like better leaps and bounds than it is than Faeven is and was. So it becomes one of those things where it's like, at what point do I let go of this series? And not necessarily forget about it or stop promoting it or whatever, but just focus on other things, which is one of the reasons why I've got these readers, right, that want, all these characters' stories, but it's almost like supply and demand, I guess, where there's a demand there, but it's not like enough of a demand.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you.
So, which is why I've only done it on Ream, where I'm like, okay, well, if these readers really want it, then this is where they can come find it. But they're going to have to understand that it's going to be more of like not necessarily like a back burner kind of thing, but I'll write it when I can write it, but I have these other stories to tell.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we'll see. I don't know.
I wonder
I don't
too,
know if that
though.
makes sense. But.
No, it does. It does. I wonder, okay, this is what I'm wondering, and I could be totally wrong. The reason why I read all the Chaos of Constellations first and not the Faeven Saga was, I think, because I started seeing your name everywhere, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to check out her newest book, and
Yeah.
and so maybe that's part of the reason why this one is selling more. I don't know, where it's like your name
It
is
could be. I had
branding.
I know with Constellations I did a larger like story tour with Book of Matches Media.
Mm-hmm.
They sent a couple books out, and then they sent a number of the arcs out. I believe it was the arcs, might have been just the actual book, but to like a lot of their I don't know, influencers, readers, promoters,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the proper term is. But so that then each person would take a day and like post about my book and post about my book and post about my book. Um, so I feel like that helped a lot. And I'll probably do that again with all the Sacrifice of Shadows. But when I was releasing Faeven, I didn't know any of that stuff existed. I didn't know that you could pay for tours and have people, like share your book and stuff on their page and promote it to
Yeah.
like their followers and their friends and whatever. So it's tricky. I'm hoping that Faven will pick up more
Uh-huh.
steam eventually, especially when people begin to realize that um, like the worlds are uh,
Yes.
connected to one another. So
100%. As you're talking and thinking it through, I think I really do that thing where it's like, okay, once I hear about an author, I tend to read their, most recently released book because, I do that. So maybe Faven will start to pick up, because it's on my TBR and I will be reading it and it sounds fabulous. I just
yeah.
picked up all the Chaos of Constellations first. So, yeah.
And there are a lot of people I know who have asked if like you have to read Faven first, and you don't,
Yeah.
because the timelines are a little bit different. So
Yeah.
it's just Faven is just vaguely mentioned
Okay.
in Constellations,
Yeah.
like in passing.
Yeah. So I know that we've been talking about all the Starstorm um, series tends to be more romance based, right? The Faven Saga is more
Yes.
like dark fantasy, world building, all the things. Is
Mhm.
As I was reading all the Chaos of Constellations, there's quite a bit of spice and steam, and that is that also present in the other series, or is it?
Um, yes, ish. Um, so so I feel like spice is like so subjective.
It
Um,
really is. I don't need a ton. Personally, everybody's different. I don't need a ton. I like a little sprinkled in there, but I like Anyway.
so Faven has it. There are some like explicit scenes, um, but they're not as much as like Starstorm and stuff. So
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and all the Sacrifice of Shadows will probably be a little bit spicier than Constellations was.
Mm-hmm. I feel like Drake is, yeah, I could see that being on brand for that character.
Yeah, it's on brand. It's on brand.
Mm-hmm.
So
So, how do you feel writing those scenes? I like asking authors that just because I'm so
it feels
curious.
fine when my kids aren't around.
Yeah.
Which is the problem I ran into yesterday. Like I was trying, it took me like forever to write this one scene, and I think I got like, let's see how many words I got. I don't know, maybe like 425 words because like I just kept getting like, interrupted. And like my kids are old enough to read, so it's like closing laptop,
Yep.
closing laptop.
Don't
Like,
look
what do you
over my
need?
shoulder, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like spicy scenes can be tricky sometimes, right? Because just like with any other scenes where you have to describe stuff, you don't want it to be repetitive. You don't want it to be boring. You don't want it to be something you've already done. You don't want to use the same, words over and over. So, um, trying to think of like new ways to describe things and stuff like that is always tricky. But I have this book I use. This one right here. It's called 90 Words for Nice Writers.
Oh my God, I love it.
It's a lifesaver.
That's amazing.
Covers all kinds of things. But like, so I often have to refer to that. I'm like, how can I say this without, saying it the way I've already said it,
and in a way that's like not cringy.
Right. Because there are certain words that, that are just like, ooh. So
have you watched 10 Things I Hate About You? I feel like that was like such a aha. And then the school counselor was writing her story, and she's like, "My
quivering member."
I was about to say that quivering member.
Oh,
gross.
The number of times that those two words come into my head when I am writing a spicy scene.
That is hysterical.
Doesn't she like refer to it as like a bratwurst or something at some point?
I think at some point. That was one of my favorite movies in high school.
Yeah, I love that one.
It's a goodie. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So you've got this book to help reference, and there's it sounds like there's a technicality or like a technical way of writing these scenes.
Yeah. And then like we have to make sure, like body parts move in expected ways. You can't have like 4 arms, doing different things at once. You can't have, like people are only flexible to a certain extent, even with magic, so you have to be like, there's like a balance. So
yeah. How do you like, if you don't want to answer, you don't have to, but how do you feel writing it? Does it make you feel steamy yourself? Or do you feel like you're so caught up in like the clinical aspect of it and trying to make it work?
So caught up in the clinical aspect of it. I'm like, how do we like the number
make this work?
I figure out like, and I've had to ask people like certain questions. I'm like, how?
That is so funny.
How do we describe this? Like, there's just certain things. I don't know. It's a lot more. So I would say like spicy scenes to me are the same as writing battle scenes. Like it's like a bunch of moving parts. It's almost like a game of chess. Like certain things have to do, you've got to like you have to show, don't tell, but then you have to make sure that like, they're still experiencing like all 5 senses. You've got to like still do their emotions, but you have to know like what body parts are where. And just like with battle scenes, it's the same thing. Just has someone lost a leg yet? Where are we at? So.
Oh my gosh! Like quite literally, there are a ton of moving parts, literally and figuratively, a lot to keep track of. Yeah. Oh my gosh! Yeah, that makes sense. Do you have any plans of doing audio versions for your books? Because I haven't seen any.
So, funny story.
Okay.
As I was sitting in the OR on Wednesday while my daughter was in the operating room, or I was in the waiting room. She was in the OR, not me. Yeah. I got an email, and I don't know if I'm like allowed to announce it yet, but I don't see why not, because I'm signing the contract, so I'm sure it's probably fine. But
you heard it here, folks.
But a senior acquisitions editor with Tantor Media reached out to me, and they want to produce all 8 Starstorm books. So I've got the contract right now, and then I will sign it and send it back to them. So now maybe all I've got to do is convince them to be like, do you want to produce Faeven too? So we'll see.
That's amazing. I have goosebumps. I think if Faeven was also produced, I can imagine that would also help your like sales with that series as well.
And like audiobooks is another one of those things where like if you don't, like with Tantor, like they're like, they're going to pay for all of the production costs and stuff like that. And a lot of authors end up footing the bill for that on their own, which is just why I haven't, because it's expensive. It is not cheap to make an audiobook. So
yeah. And it seems like it's becoming more and more popular, and it's a whole other beast, but like another way to bring in probably income too, and get people reading your books. Because I recently discovered it. I was not into really listening to books on tape, like old school way of describing it, but doing audiobooks. But now I'm kind of into it. I like to listen on my way to work, because I can't read my book as I'm driving, or you shouldn't be.
I don't like being read to at all. I would much rather just read it myself. But I know part of like my, what's the word I'm looking for? Job, isn't it? That's what I'm going to use. Like I'll have to like listen to the audiobooks as they're, to like make sure and everything. So that'll be interesting. Because I just, like if someone's like, oh, did you, hear this article, and they start reading to me, I'm like, please just stop. Just let me read it myself. Like I can't, like and it's not that I don't want to listen to them. It's just, I won't absorb any information. I won't hear what they're saying. Like I'm sure I could probably listen to an audiobook, but would I be able to tell you what happened? Probably not, because I'll find something else to do.
Yeah. So. Have any of your personal experiences influenced plots of your stories? I know the first series, Contemporary, or those first books had some Marine military, but like, I don't know, anything with the fantasy.
With the fantasy ones, I wouldn't say like necessarily like personal experience exactly.
Yeah.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not.
But in terms of so like with Novelise, right? Like she has anxiety. So like that was something that I'm very familiar with. So I was able to like channel that into her character. Maeve has like a fear of heights, and that is something I'm very familiar with, so it's like certain smaller aspects. And like I'll borrow those things from people I know too, right? Like if I know someone has like a fear of XYZ, like I'll like might slide that into like a character. But it's not just fears, it's like also things people are like really good at, like painting or drawing or certain things like that. If someone like my brother's a really talented artist, so if someone like, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but I'll take like certain things and try to like weave it in.
Yeah. So. I think that makes sense. And with Novelise, it definitely felt like there was some lived experience there maybe. And
so like Tiernan, right? Like he's the MMC in in Faeven, the whole series. He plays guitar. So so there's like a lot of like little like short snippets of songs throughout those books, which are all just poems that I wrote, which goes back to the whole studying of Shakespeare and writing poems and doing all that stuff. So
cool. Yeah, I think that's great. And then is there any scene that is your favorite from any of your books?
It's like you're asking me this, and now I can't remember what I've written.
Not to put you on the spot. I'm so sorry.
There's probably a scene in Throne of Dreams where like Maeve, like Tiernan kind of like doesn't necessarily betray her, but like makes like a major mistake. And she's like really angry, and so she wears this like revenge dress. To like birthday party, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And she like just, her whole purpose was to bring him to his knees, and she does. And that was probably one of my favorite scenes to write.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, this is kind of a random question too. I was thinking as you were writing, or as you were talking, so all the Chaos of Constellations, it's all part of this. There are 8 books in the series. They're standalone, but then they're interconnected, correct?
Right.
So like some of the there were some questions that I had about certain characters in this first book that will likely get answered in the upcoming series. Like Novelisa's mom, I have some questions there.
Yeah.
Or
okay. So there were and so that's what like I think like I probably should have made more clear when publishing, but whatever.
No, okay.
Like what I've noticed, like, so like my husband will like read my reviews for me, and he said that like one of the main things that people were like knocking off stars for or whatever was the fact that there were unanswered questions. So I'm like, well, yeah, it's book 1 of 8.
Okay.
You know, so yes, it's a standalone, but again, it's only a standalone because that particular couple gets there happily ever after. There's a whole like
bigger picture story.
That's happening that will slowly be answered in each of the subsequent books.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted just to clarify on that. I assume that was what was happening, and I know that you've already shared that, but because there are some questions about characters where I'm like, there's something here, I think. So, okay. Awesome. Hillary, this has been so much fun talking with you. I've like really loved it. Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like to share for for the listeners, for your readers? Anything that you want them to be on the lookout for?
Yeah, so I'll be releasing the cover and the blurb for All the Sacrifice of Shadows soon. I already have it. It's just been like sitting in my inbox waiting patiently.
Yeah.
And if they want to sign up for like my hype team, they can. Sign-ups for those will be opening soon. They can find me at Hillary Raymer on Instagram. That will be posted soon, and they can like, if they want to sign up for the hype team, they can. If they want to sign up for the cover reveal, they can. And then All the Sacrifice of Shadows releases on November 13th. Yeah, and I think that's it.
Very cool. And folks can find your books at HillaryRaymer.com and then Amazon and
Barnes and Noble, all the places. Most major online retailers.
Yeah. Can I ask one last question? What did it feel like because of the publishing journey that you've been through when you actually held your first book?
With the contemporary books, it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
But when I first held Crown of Roses, it was just like this like sense of accomplishment and almost like relief. Like I did it, you know, like I knew I could do it. I just, you know, finally like, you know, put myself, you know, like, you know, going against like the grain or whatever, or the grinder or whatever it's called. And like just did it, you know, I just like muscled up. But it was like it's a great feeling. Sometimes it's still kind of surreal. I just got the Book Cove is doing like the special edition of Constellations. And I just signed like 500 tip-in pages, which was mind blowing, but that was really fun to do. So sometimes it's still a little surreal. Like I'll like look on my bookshelf and I'll like see my books. I'm like, oh, I did write those, didn't I?
You did that. Yes. Well, and I was wondering if that helps with imposter syndrome. Like, good Lord.
It does.
Yeah.
It does sometimes. And then there's times where like, you know, like my mom was at like a family reunion like last year, and like the number of family members that went up to her and were like, so is this just like a hobby?
What?
Yeah.
What the hell?
So
sorry.
it's fine.
Don't let that impact. Yeah. I hope that you can let that bounce off of you.
It's not a hobby. Like I'm like publishing books, like, you know.
This is your career.
Yeah. So it's fine.
You have a great reader base. Like, good Lord. Your books are, I really love your writing, Hillary. I think you're an amazing writer, and you really bring these characters to life. And I loved, even though you said that all the Chaos of Constellations, the Starstorm series, is not as like world building, I still felt like it was beautifully explained, the world building or whatever. So
thank you. I'm going to try over like the next couple of books to like, it's going to be like more of like a slow embellish.
Okay.
Like the only
I
way
love
I can
that.
describe
it.
Yeah. Because I know when I'm reading, like I don't like to be bogged down in like massive descriptions.
Yeah. Right. Because sometimes I have to go back and reread.
I'll just skim and like not even read it and just keep going.
I did not do that with your book. I did not.
Thank you.
So there you go. And oh my gosh, I know I keep saying one last question. I do this in every single interview.
Okay.
I was going to ask you if there will be like some fun special editions that we can be on the lookout for. Like, and you mentioned the Book Cove, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. So, okay. So the Book Cove is doing a special edition, or has done a special edition of all the Chaos of Constellations. That one is currently sold out.
They sell out so fast.
There's a wait list.
Okay.
There's a wait list. And I believe the owner's plan is to open the wait list back up because she wants to do special editions of all 8 books. So I'm thinking it'll be one of those things where, like, when she opens up pre-orders for All the Sacrifice of Shadows, if anyone wants to order Constellations, like, that would be the time to do it.
Okay, cool.
And so on and so forth. And then I'm working on special editions for a special edition for All the Sacrifice of Shadows for book events.
Okay.
So it's kind of tricky because I'm going to have them done to where, like, they're like book event, like event exclusives, but at the same time, I might just tweak a couple things, like maybe like the interior formatting or something. And then maybe make the covers available as like an online exclusive, like at like Barnes & Noble or something like that. That way, if someone still wants the cover, they can order it without having to attend the event.
That would be amazing because these events sell out so fast. ApolloCon, good Lord, baby girl. I could not get tickets. Like, they sold out in like 4 freaking minutes. So sorry, go ahead.
It's crazy. And then I have special editions for the Faeven Saga also. The covers, I have them for pre-order on my website, but I'm also launching a Kickstarter for them on July 1st. They're like the naked hardcovers, so they won't have dust jackets. And they'll have rose gold foil. They'll have rose gold sprayed edges. And they have like full color interior and papers. So,
oh my God, I want that. Yeah, I love
They're really, really pretty.
Oh, that's amazing. And then the Book Cove, is that business located? Is this right? Am I getting this business confused? Are they located in South Africa?
They are. Yep. They're South Africa. She wanted to create a book box company for South Africa. So that's what she did. And she ships internationally. And shipping is a little pricey, but I mean, it's, South Africa, so you have to deal with it.
I mean, 100%. I didn't see yours, but I saw one of Whitney Dean's books. I think I thought maybe it was. And the shipping was it was a little expensive, but I mean, they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it is coming from South Africa.
The Book Cove is, the owner is really great. She's amazing. And it's been kind of like a little bit like a learning curve for both of us because I'm her first author since she launched. So we've been kind of like figuring it out as we go.
Wow.
But it's been great. So
you got to be the first author.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Such an honor and so special. It really is.
And then I realized I was for a while, and then I was like, wait a second.
I was like,
am I your first author? And she's like, yes, I figured it'd be perfect. And I was like, oh my God. So yeah, it was really cool.
You did it. Yeah. Oh, well, I cannot wait for some special editions to be available. I will be purchasing them. And, but anyway, yes. Hillary, anything else that you want to share? I know I keep asking you that, but it's been so much fun.
No, I think that's it.
You're like, and I'm done. Thank you so much for talking with me. This has been a true honor. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this. I know you've got a lot of other stuff going on and taking care of your daughter and all the things. So
yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And you guys can find her books again at HillaryRaymer.com. She's on Instagram. Be on the lookout for Ream. Or I guess that's already a thing. Is that already a thing? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, you can find her books at any major book retailer. Thanks, Hillary, and take care. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Romantasy Library as I interviewed Hillary Raymer, an author of fantasy romance and epic romantasy. She has written the Faeven Saga, Crown of Roses, Throne of Dreams, Realm of Nightmares, and Void of Endings, as well as the new beloved series, the Starstorm series, including all the Chaos of Constellations. Guys, again, that cover is stunning. If you're listening to this on any type of podcast platform, look it up online. This cover is gorgeous. And her soon-to-be released book, All the Sacrifice of Shadows. If you are interested in purchasing her books, check out her website, www.hillaryraymer.com. She's also on Instagram. Her books can be found at any major book retailer. She's also on Discord, and we talked about that app Ream, which I had no idea about, so I'm going to be checking that out too. But thank you guys so much for being here and helping me to celebrate and promote authors who write fanciful stories that make my heart sing. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. There are many more to come with amazing authors. If you're feeling generous, please feel free to leave a 5-star rating and review. Thanks for being here and for sticking around and for helping to celebrate these amazing authors. Thanks, guys.